Hello. Welcome to the Irregular Hobby Show. The title is, an indication that this doesn't happen that often. And when it does, not really a fixed schedule. It's sort of about Wednesday lunchtime. It might change in the future, and we can run this whenever we like because we're grown-ups and we're in charge. I'm just adjusting the camera for some overhead stuff. I don't really have a very good setup at the moment, but I am looking into that. As you can see, this camera is right in my face, which isn't great, but it is what it is, as they might say, and that's all right. We're okay with that. We'll get some better equipment. I do kind of plan on having this side of the office to be more of a studio space, I guess. I'm just going to move that out of the way for now. More of a studio space where I can set up. Well, one thing, I want to do some streaming with Relic Blade and go through the Catacombs of Corral campaign. So that'll be nice, and I'll need a space for that. So, and I obviously don't want the camera work to be as crap as this. But again, it's one of those like humble beginnings. I don't want to go out and splash loads of money on equipment when you don't need to, and quite frankly, I can make do with this until if I start to do any sort of painting tutorials. Not that I'm a great painter or anything like that, but if I did start to do painting tutorials, then I'd need a better camera, I think. Certainly one that can zoom. So I am just alerting the masses, i.e. the 12 people that follow me on Twitter. So this is great entertainment of me just tip-tap typing. Not sure if I spelled Twitch right. Sometimes you write a word and it just looks odd. Twitch was one of those today. Which is one of those things, right? Sometimes words look a bit weird. So what are we doing today? Well, there's things have happened. I've had a kid, another kid. So we welcomed Margot into the world on the 12th of October. She's cool. She's very small. Bit of a bumpy ride to begin with. She lost too much weight, so we had to go back in and keep monitoring her weight, and then we got released from that, and then she got an infection or a virus on her chest, so she was on oxygen, and that was quite scary. So I realised, I think end of last week, early this week. No, end of last week. It's still early this week. Realised that we'd actually spent more time in hospital than out over the last month. So, it's good to be out, and it's nice to finally be settling into home life, and also, fitting hobby and stuff back into life. You make adjustments with any major change like that, and an extra person to look after, to feed and care for is quite a big deal. Just taking my medication because I realise I've not. So that's new. That's life at the moment. We're adjusting to having a new baby, and she's cool. I'm sure she'll be on a stream at some point. You'll probably hear her at some point. She's got some lungs on her, bless her. But she is sound. So she's called Margot. I keep calling her Grumbledore whenever she's crying. And other daughter Ada calls her Go-Go sometimes. It's all very cute and lovely. But also, we're all quite fatigued, as you can imagine. So I'm just going to get some kitchen roll, because I'm going to do some painting today. I don't have a huge amount planned. So on Mondays I'm currently... What am I doing on Mondays? I'm doing a getting back into Age of Sigmar thing. So, yeah, basically, I've got a game of Age of Sigmar coming up. I'm going to Dasmol's birthday shindig at Warhammer World, and basically I've not played Age of Sigmar in a long, long time. 3-4 years, something like that. And I don't know how to play. I don't know what I really need to play. I don't know how many points, I didn't know how many points I had worth of miniatures. So I went through my miniatures on Monday, did a Monday night stream, which you can go back and watch, I guess, if you wanted to, and just trying to figure out what I've actually got. It turns out I've got about 60 ghouls, and 12 flayers, an orc regent, a ghoul king thing, the Varghoul courtier, I think it's called. I did have a zombie dragon, and I did have a terrorgeist. I don't know where they are. I know one of them was sort of destroyed in a move. We moved from London to... Well, we moved twice. We've moved lots of times in the last few years, but we moved across London, and I think one got damaged in that move. And then I think when we moved again, we moved to Wales, either it got damaged more or it just got lost somewhere along the lines. And currently both are lost. I don't know where either of them are. I think one's probably in a bin, and then the other one is missing in action, probably terrorising someone somewhere. So that's the thing. I've lost two of the most expensive miniatures in the range, I guess. And then I looked at replacing them, so maybe getting some starter sets. And with Flesh Eater Courts, there's going to be the rumour is there's going to be a bit of a refresh with some of the miniatures. They've announced a couple of miniatures already. I covered those on Monday. They look really cool. But rumour has it they're going to update the ghouls themselves, because I guess that range is quite old now. To be fair, they don't look bad, but they're quite small on the scale of things. So I think they'll probably have a bit of scale creep introduced, which will be fine. But they are really small at the moment. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Apparently the codex is pretty good. I say codex, I mean, you know what I mean. What do I mean? I mean battle tome. That's the word I'm looking for. See, I'm still trying to get used to all the terminology and, get back into the swing of what Age of Sigmar is, what it was, and what it might be. The last time I played Age of Sigmar was, again, I think it was 3, maybe 4 years ago. It was definitely in London. I played against my friend Dan, the Tackle Zone. He's got a channel himself. And yeah, he played like a high elf army, and it was one of those games where you're trying to figure everything out, and like there's a lot of reading and stuff like that. And that was before I discovered some tools that I put a shout out on Twitter last week, I think it was, or the week before. Any tips for anyone getting back into Age of Sigmar? And one of the most helpful tips was Ready for Sigmar. I think, no, it's not Ready for Sigmar. AOS reminders. Yeah, AOS reminders. It's not Ready for Sigmar. So yeah, I found that AOS reminders is really good, because one thing I struggled with is like remembering all the buffs that you can apply. and on the Monday coming, I'm going to go through the War Scrolls and like pick the artifacts and the flying chasms and the automatic aardvarks, all the stuff that you can add that give you like buffs. And yeah, I watched a really good video from the Honest Wargamer on fleshing your courts, where he talks through, you know, all the different bits and bobs that you can do. And one of the greatest things I got from that particular video was the advice that anything you pick, you want it to have you want it to affect more than just the character. More often than not, anyway, you want it to affect more than just the character. So you either want it to have an influence on your general strategy, or, you know, the ability to buff more miniatures, which, you know, was obvious when you say it, but I think it was really good for me to hear that and read that, because again, you know, I've never really used those things. I did a little bit last time. I feel a bit more prepared this time, especially with AOS reminders, because, you know, I'll quickly just throw it on the screen for a second. But so yeah, you pick your units, you pick your faction, you pick your units, you say what command traits and abilities you've got, whether you've got any battalions, you know, all these things, any scenery. I've been meaning to pick up this Carnal Throne. I haven't picked it up yet. It's probably sold out. Something odd is going on with my hair. We'll figure that out. We'll just have this little skateboard ramp going on. So yeah, these reminders. So during the setup, so you've got, you know, anything that has anything relevant to the sections or the phases, this will tell you. So particularly the stuff that I'd forget would be, you know, during movement phase. I'd probably remember like one of each, but if there was multiple, like during combat phase, for instance, there are 6 different things to remember. So what I'll probably do is like print this out and just have a little cheat sheet next to me, essentially. So yeah, I was really impressed by this, to be honest. Like, you know, if I had a day, I don't know what that is, but if I just add that, completely delusional, that will add something here. So completely delusional. So it's added during the game. Once per battle, if the general has not been slain, you can pick a new delusion. You know, I probably wouldn't use that, but just having that added to your, you know, to the reminder list, I just think it's fabulous. And again, for someone who's getting into the game, I think this is essential, to be honest. I think this is like a real, really makes the game more accessible. Because one thing about Age of Sigmar that, you know, it's touted as, oh, you know, originally it was touted as like, yeah, all the rules are in like 2 or 4 pages. And then the reality is actually a lot of the rules are just on, they're not on like in a book, they're on the War Scrolls, which is, you know, quite good as long as you've got the War Scrolls to hand. And it's a nice idea having physical cards, but again, they're harder to update, so I know there are apps and stuff now, which is good. But it's more places to look. So I feel like now with the reminders, you can have your reminders, you can have your War Scrolls, you know, whatever the essential stuff. Either you can get the cards if you're lucky enough to get hold of them and they're still in date, to get your cards, or you can print them out in some way. I'm sure there's like options to print them out. And then yeah, you've got less that you need to sort of care about or bring to the table. It sort of minimises the amount of rule books you need to bring, because you know, if you've played 40k or even Age of Sigmar, I guess, in the past, before stuff like AOS reminders, you'd end up taking like, and that's what put me off actually. We played one game in, again, 3 or 4 years ago. I played a game, and I rocked up to Dan's house, we both had like a stack of books to use during the game, and because neither of us knew our armies particularly well, I didn't really know my army that well at all. Dan knew his a bit more, but because of that, there's a lot of reading. So like, stopping to read something, and then there's that sort of tax of trying to read. It's not just like rules writing is a difficult skill, right? So, in context, something might make perfect sense, but it's like if the context isn't there, then it makes it much more difficult. So it's almost like with some rules writers, you need to sort of get into the flow of how they write, and they're easy to read then, but to come in cold, it can be quite difficult, if that makes sense. And sometimes you need to reread things a couple of times to really understand like when and where you can use it. And I know like they try and make things easier with keywords, and they're a lot more verbose now. Like they try and explain things more and more. But I think sometimes that's to the detriment. Like it almost like I like that a neat deeper explanation. I love an example, but ultimately like a bullet pointed list of like the conditions. Maybe obviously things change all the time, but that's how just things being plain in terms of like the way they're laid out. So rules writing and the design of a book, or a card, or Wall Scroll card, or whatever, that's really important as well, because they differentiate the fluff or the lore in italics, then the rules are in standard font, not italics, but that only helps so much when you're looking at something like a 10-point font. It's quite small. So again, AOS reminders, it's good. I like it, and I think it's gonna certainly help me in December. So I think it's December 7th. I'm going to be taking part in a team game. So I'm bringing 1,000 points. I'll be paired up with someone with 1,000 points, and we're playing against 2 other people with 1,000 points each, and it'll be fun. So looking forward to that. I also need to make a Warcry band, because I'm going to learn how to play Warcry that weekend. Whether I learn how to play it or not actually play a game or not is a different matter, but I at least want to observe a game. I know Chris Peach is going to run a few people through how to play, because I know he's a big fan of the game, and I'd just like to get a better feel for it. I do like smaller scale games, just in terms of they're quicker to play, and it's not like you have to commit to buying a whole bunch of models. And if your budget, some people have a huge budget for hobby, and they can go, right, I'm going to get these 3 armies, and they can get 2,000 points in each one. Whether they paint them or not is a different matter, but playing smaller scale games, you can get different factions, and it's the costs, the barrier to entry and cost and everything is much lower. And with Warcry, I think the war bands you can buy like 35 quid or something like that, and you could, for the price of like 1 army for Age of Sigmar, you could probably buy 4 different Warcry war bands, I think they're called. Maybe 5, I don't know, it depends on your army, I guess. So that's something I consider when I'm playing games as well. And also, like, again, I'm like everyone, I'm time poor, I don't have lots of time. I have a day job, and then I have Exit 23 games. So I kind of always try to balance those two until the point Exit 23 games is something I can live off, essentially. And then there's gaming on top of that, so, and around a family, and especially when you've got a newborn. So yeah, it's these things all factor into. You know, I'd love to have multiple 2K, 40K armies and Age of Sigmar armies because I love the model, I love the lore behind a lot of them. I really enjoy the painting and all that stuff, all those great things about the hobby. But ultimately, it's a balance. Like if I have the budget, I can buy the models, but then it's like, well, when am I going to paint them? When am I going to play with them? So it's all trying to find a balance between all of that. And like yourselves, I'm sure there's elements of the hobby that you get a chance to do more than others, but there might be elements of the hobby that you wish you could do more. I think painting and gaming are two things that most people would probably like to play more games than they do, but then you've got time constraints, and again, it's the option between a 2K fight with someone or a skirmish game. You know, time will always win out on a lot of that. So yeah, you're looking at like 3 hours to play a game of Age of Sigmar, I guess, or 2.5, I don't know. I know with Blood Bowl, even though that's a small board game, basically it's, you know, you're looking at 2 hours, 2 hours 10. In, you know, competitive games it's 2 hours 15, I think, usually, and then I think for the national championships it's 2.5 hours. I might be wrong there, it might be a little bit less, but it's still quite a chunk of time, right? So to do that in an evening is quite the commitment, especially when you're new to the hobby, or you're getting back into the hobby, and there's going to be a lot of like double checking rules. You know, you might be lucky if you've got someone that you play with or who's experienced that will play with you, and they can sort of guide you and, like, you know, give you advice on, oh, well, this is what you want to do here, these are your options, that kind of thing. Pointing out where you couldn't do that but you could do this, little mistakes like that, then that helps. And certainly when I got into Blood Bowl originally, after a few years out of the hobby, playing against people that knew the game and were, you know, happy, you know, that enjoyed helping new people get into the game was really, really good. And, you know, I'd look for that I'm looking forward to that in December, because I know, like, I'm going to go into this with a bit of experience. I will certainly be more prepared because of AOS reminders and other resources, but I will definitely be leaning on the people I play with, and not in like I'm going to leave it up to them, like I don't want to burden anyone, but I think there's always an etiquette there that when you're playing against someone who is new, that you help them, you know, because ultimately you want them to enjoy the game because you want to enjoy the game. And, you know, there's a fine line, there's a balance between how much you help, and sometimes people get that wrong. I probably got that wrong in the past. I usually ask, like, oh, would you like to know how, but I see what you did there, or would you like to know what you could have done differently? And sometimes most people say, yeah, sounds good, you know, and you can talk them through in Blood Bowl what they could have done differently. That's generally what I play, Blood Bowl. So yeah, most people are like cool about it, and like I've been on the other side of that, where really experienced players, like, you know, European Championship winning players have pointed the stuff out to me, and it's really brought my game along, and it's really helped to cut out mistakes. And some of that is, you know, cutting out some of the mistakes just helps with like quality of life in terms of games, like making sure they flow, so that you're not hung up on, oh, let me just check this rule, or I've got to read this in the other book because, you know, that's been updated in an FAQ, or, you know, all that stuff. So yeah, if your gaming buddies can help you out in any way, then I think you're on to a winner. So yeah, basically, Age of Sigmar reminders, good time, happy with that. So when I left things on Monday, I'd been through all the models that I've got. I've been through all the models that I've got for Flesh Eater Courts. I did discover I've still got a box of Endless Spells that I have not painted. I've taken the cellophane off. I think I've opened the box to look at the contents and then put it back in, and then it's been through like 2-3 house moves. Classic me. And I don't even know if I'm going to use these for December, but I do plan on building them and painting them soon, basically, because you know you'll see in a minute that most of my army is already painted to some level. They all have the skin done. The skin's done on everything. So then, like, and then some of them I've done some of the fur, I've done some of the wings and that kind of thing. So they're all at a state of like completed to some degree. They've all been based. I've done all the bases, and that was just so I could play a game with Dan way back when, and that allowed us. Well, you know, I don't want to turn up with unpainted models. Not that I'm against it, but it's sort of deeply ingrained in me, because when I was getting into the hobby when I was a kid, there was this sort of rule of, you know, you couldn't play in a store unless your models were painted. So I was always like, that was always a barrier for me. Like I was a kid, it took me a long time to paint stuff, so I never played in a Games Workshop store under those conditions, because realistically you just couldn't get there. But it's always given me that, well, if I'm going to play, I've got to at least have 3 colours and based. So that's kind of what I did when I played Age of Sigmar with Dan, and before that I played with Kharadron Overlords a little bit. I couldn't fathom out all the extra gumph you get with like, this boat is blue, so it means you're better at X, Y, and Z. You know, I've made that up, but you know what I mean, all the buffs. I was crap at all that, so I just didn't do it, and obviously that was a huge detriment to me. And I was only getting a bit out of the game than I should have, really. So, and that was on me. But even then, I got them to the point where it's like they're 3 colours and based, because I don't want to rock up and play a game with someone without providing a level of experience where it's like, this looks cool, you know, this looks like a game that we've all like put effort in and want it to look like a little miniature war kind of thing. I'm more relaxed about that myself. Like I'll play, you know, I've played in leagues where, like Blood Bowl leagues for instance, where your miniatures just aren't painted at all, and like a common thing in the Blood Bowl leagues that I played in was, you know, you'd start the league and some people would paint their team as they went, so week on week the team got more and more finished, and obviously there's various ways you can paint, so you can batch paint or you can paint each miniature to completion, but then a lot of people just had fully painted teams because, you know, it's 11 people on or 11 characters on a pitch, so it's not a huge commitment in terms of painting time, and that's actually what got me back into the hobby, is that low commitment with Blood Bowl got me back into the hobby. And you know, like as any good gateway drug does, I soon found myself looking at 40k again and going, ooh, orcs, dark angels. So yeah, here I am now. I started a business and all that stuff because I got into Blood Bowl. What a ride. Let me just mute that. Yeah, I'm still figuring out all the tech, so I don't always know if anyone is on in the chat or anything like that, so yeah, let me know if you're in the chat, drop me a message and I will respond to any questions you have or comments. yeah, so what I was going to do today, again, I'm going to do a bit of painting. I was trying to give a bunch of context into what I'm painting and why, and then I've spent 30 minutes 30 minutes talking about Age of Sigmar and getting back into it. Hopefully you've found some of it useful. I don't know if you will have, but it's an experience that I'm going through, and I thought it'd be interesting to share and sort of document the journey back into the hobby, back into that element of the hobby, or that part of the hobby. So yeah, I'm going to do some painting before I distract myself with more stuff. I mentioned on Monday I'm going to do some ghouls. Well, I talked about was I going to paint some ghouls, or was I going to paint some flayers? I'm going to try and batch paint some ghouls. There's 60 to get through. Again, I've done all of the skin, so it's more about, okay, well, they're holding a bone, I've got to paint that, I've got to paint claws, I've got to paint teeth, and that kind of thing. So they're all in a good place, but there is still more to do. So, you know, I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm just going to grab a stack and start to look at painting them. So these ones are all holding like a little dagger. So I'm not sure what the dagger is made from. So I'm going to just look at the Games Workshop website, and I know it's changed and it's not so good. But that's where we're at. That is what's happened. So let's have a look together. Just warhammer.com now, isn't it? You can see I've been here before. For some reason, it doesn't seem like it's picking that up. Let's try that again. Ooh, why isn't it working? There we are. Technical difficulties. So let's have a look at this image. We're looking for them holding a little cheeky dagger. Is that all the images we're going to get? So you used to have, I'm sure you used to have a bunch of images. And that is not the best quality. Can we make it bigger in any way? No. So, is that the same image? It is. Feels like it's bigger there. Oh, it is. Okay. Interesting. So it's not him. He's holding a big bone. I don't think it's them. It looks like a little dagger really, but I can't see an example, which is interesting. So let's try, if we try the, if we look at a box set maybe. Start collecting. Yes, if I scroll down to the images here, things are laid out differently. Okay, so we're looking for, I'll show you on the camera. You won't be able to see very well, but Top down. You can see he's got this little pointy thing. I mean, everything's blue at the moment, so it's hard to sort of say. I suspect it's just a bone that's been made into a dagger, but I want to make sure that I get the right thing. So I can't see it in any of those. It's kind of like that one, but it's not exactly the same. So those two are the same. And I tried to like not batch, but tried to go through all the miniatures and like sort them in terms of similar. Like if they're holding a rock, then you know, I'll pick those together, kind of thing. But obviously, I've made a grave error in picking something that doesn't seem to be covered by anyone else. So let's do a little search. Flesh eater, quartz, and we'll do ghouls. So I could obviously just start painting, but I think sometimes it's good to just have a look and see what your options are. Get an idea. I don't know how well this is going to work, but we will flick through these images and see if we can find one that what's this guy? I like what they've done with the Ghoul King. Not a model that I really like, to be honest, but they've done a good job on that one. They've given it a decent pose. So let's keep looking through, see if we can find the bloody thing. Okay, so can we see it in here? We definitely have these rock holding guys. Looks like a rock to me, but they painted it like a bit of flesh. But hey, that's just that image. Of course, I picked the. I think this is the ghoul that I have the most of, like holding this bit of whatever it is. Looks like a banana. I might paint them as bananas. But yeah, so I've got 6 of these, maybe even 7. Who knows? I mean, I will know when I count them. It's not like a mystery. I mean, it's a mystery to me what that is. I think I'm just going to paint it as... So I kind of want to paint them as bananas. But I think they're just going to be shards of bone. But with a bit of a metallic twist. So another thing I need to do is find the book. That's cool. So I don't know where this is in terms of, what was it, a commemorative series. Oh, okay. That's a cool mini, I've not seen that before. I'll have to try and pick that up. It's probably worth a fortune on eBay now, but it is what it is. So in terms of the bones, what I've done on others is I've painted them with metallic, because my sort of theme for the army was like in the realm of metal. So I've tried to make it as if there's sort of everything they touch and, you know, come across is sort of tainted by metal in some way. So like, there's a really nice, there's a part of the Name of the Wind where Quoth fights a Dracoth, which is basically a big lizard, but commonly mistaken for a dragon. And this Dracoth has eaten whatever it's eaten. There's a real high iron content in it, and what's happened is, like, because they live for hundreds of years, over the years, because its body's absorbed more and more iron, like its scales are basically metal, not quite metal, they're still kind of scales, but there's enough metal in them that, like, they're magnetic, and really, really, really tough. So yeah, I kind of thought I'd do that with these. So like their claws, their spikes and stuff would be metal based. So and at the time it was an excuse to use metallics, because, you know, I sell metallics. I sell a lot of metallics. So that was the sort of plan with them. Can't remember what colour I was using, so I'll have to go through and figure that out. But that was the plan, that was the theme. And each base has, I've done these, I covered this in Monday, but I'll go over it quickly now. So each base, let me do this top down. So each base, it's confusing, has these sort of crystals, and I made the crystals using the sprues. So I just cut up sprues and glued them together to make like hexagons, and then I've painted them with dark net. So the idea is that these are sort of pushed through the earth, and they're all around the ghouls. So without knowing exactly what to do, I think I'm going to look at some of the fur and paint that. I think that's what I'm going to focus on to begin with. So I used corn red for my fur, so that means I'm going to use Asmodeus red. I'll find the red now. There we are. So Tooth and Coats is the paint range I'm using. And what I'll do is I'll do all of the fur with this. For all 60 models. I'll probably then scream into a pillow, have a little cry, and then pick the next colour. That said, it shouldn't be too bad. There's not a lot of fur on any of these, and I'm using, for anyone interested, I'm using synthetic brushes. I do like these painting handles. Again, you know, shameless plug, I do sell these. And I have to wear these goggles because I can't bloody see anything. So I'm going to wear these. And I'm going to talk to you as I paint. Well, that's the plan anyway. So you get to see how stupid I look. Hopefully you can see me painting. The view will be crap, and I apologise for that. But again, I'm not in a position to get a fancy zoomy camera. But it's something I'm looking at. So, you know, if you do like what's happening, then let me know, and I will invest in the equipment. And if you don't like what I'm happening, then what I'm doing, sorry, then let me know, and we'll work on it. So already fucked up. Yeah, I am a great painter. Fucked up straight away, and then continue to fuck up. But as Bewitched once famously said, c'est la vie. This is one of 60, and none of them will be perfect, but they will be painted. I don't know how well you can see any of that. I can't see now because of my stupid glasses. So I'm painting I guess it's like a little tabard, which is really hard for you to see, and the reality is you'll see such a small part of it on the table. It won't really matter too much how badly I paint it, but I'm going to paint it anyway. Paint all the stuff. So all I'll do is I'll just quickly go over them with the idea of just getting these done. I'll spend a bit more time on the arc region, obviously, because that's a character, and I'll spend a bit more time on anything that's like, well, I say this now, but I'll try and spend more time on the large figures because it could be more obvious, and then anything that's like a captain or a leader, they'll get more love and attention too. But not much more love and attention. What I tend to find as you do these batch painting is you find that you'll paint something, you'll paint a new miniature. Well, you'll paint a miniature and you realise you've painted 3 more of these, and for the first time you've just seen something and you realise that you've missed it on the others. So you have to go back. That's how it works for me anyway, so that will happen. And obviously some things will require 2 thin coats. Some things I might get away with not bothering. Sometimes I do the base coat and go straight to the highlights and just think, well, that's alright. Generally what happens with that though is your miniature is much darker, so they'll look decent, but some of the highlights won't exaggerate things enough. So that's just something to bear in mind. I need to get some more caps because I've got loads of stuff on caps at the moment, and well, I don't really want to take them off the caps because I can't be bothered, which is a terrible attitude, but it's where we're at. Could do that. We're live, so I don't want to spend loads of time faffing around with putting miniatures on different bits and bobs. So if you have any experience as a Flesh Eater course player and you have any advice, let me know. Or you just want to share your experience, either, you know, let me know in the chat, drop me a comment, join us on the next stream. We could even bring you on as a guest if you want to talk about it, if you've got enough to say. And again, it's me getting back into the hobby, so I'm not going to be back into Age of Sigmar. So there's going to be a lot to learn, and advice is welcome. So if you've got any tips on how to get how to make the learning curve less steep, they're welcome. If you've got tips and tricks as to how to play in general, I'd love to hear it. If you've got any tips and tricks as to how to play with Flesh Eater courts, I'd love to hear it. Again, I've watched the Honest Wargamers video, I think it was a month ago or something like that, it came out. It covers some of the new changes in terms of General's Handbook, is it called? So that was really insightful. That's really helped me determine what to build. But then because I'm playing at 1,000 points, I want to get as much out of the points as I can. And again, you know, I think you're always going to take a Terrorgeist or Terrorgeist, whatever it is. But I don't have one. And at the moment I can't get one. And certainly I think by the time it would arrive and I'd build it and paint it, the event might be, well, I might just be basically cutting it too fine to do that comfortably, so I'm not going to. And that's a choice. But I do intend on replacing getting another Terrorgeist or two, and go from there. Originally I was going to build two zombie dragons, and then I was building the second one, and that classic, you clip something out of a sprue and it pings across the room and you spend ages looking for it, and so I couldn't find this piece. I ended up not building another zombie dragon, and because it meant I couldn't, but I could still build a Terrorgeist. So I built a Terrorgeist instead. And then, I've got a beard, and I brush my beard. I've got a lovely brush, so I brush my beard all the time. Sometimes just when I'm bored, and so it's not like I don't wash or brush my beard. But 2 days later at work, I came out of the toilet and I ran my hands through my beard like that. I heard this clatter, and I looked down on the floor at work and saw this piece of zombie dragon. I was like, oh my days. I'd spent so long scouring the floor, looking all over my desk, looking for this piece, and it was just in my beard. And it sort of managed to stay hidden for a couple of days. I was but also slightly embarrassed, and slightly annoyed, because I wanted to build two zombie dragons. I know in hindsight the Terrorgeist is actually a better unit, but I didn't know that at the time. And I thought the zombie dragon looked better. I think my opinion has changed the other way around now, but it is what it is. And I don't own either of them now. I don't know where they are. So, as I said at the start of the video, they have been lost to time and house moves, both damaged and lost. So that's that. They're gone. But yeah, I really like the idea behind the Flesh Eater courts. Like they think they're these sort of regal, noble warriors, and actually they're nutters. who eat the flesh of other humans. But to them, they're like on this noble quest and like the saviors of mankind kind of thing. And I think that's really cool. Like, it's a really cool idea. I do wish they had some kind of like cavalry or something like that, just to make it a bit more like they're not just kind of zombie ghouly type things. It'd be good to have I think the rotting corpse horse type things would be quite cool. They'd look cool, and sort of that delusions of grandeur kind of thing would be playing to that quite well, I think. So then of course it gives the army more ways to play, because at the moment there's not many miniatures. Like, I remember if you looked at the website again, so this is a miniature you can't get anymore. It was like a limited edition thing, and that's fine. It's annoying, but it's what they do. But if you look at the range that's available now, I know there are two more miniatures that have just been announced, but if we do look at the existing range, so there's a Warcry Warband, that's cool. This set only includes one new model, so you've got, they're unique. There's one unique model in there. You've got the Arc Regent, Zombie Dragon, Terrorgeist, the Ghouls. You've got the End of Spells, the Throne, the Varghulf Courtier, and then you've got the Infernal Courtier or Hunter Courtier and the Flayers, and like these are the same kit. So and again with these, so the Abhorrent Ghoul King on Zombies or Dragon or Terrorgeist, they're the same kit. So you get the Ghoul King with it. And then so obviously you get the options, and the same with these. Like, you'll get the option to build either the Flayers or the Horrors. So there's 19. So it shows 19 of 19. Realistically, these four are one box with the options. You've got the Crypt Ghouls is one box. The Varghulf Courtier is another, so that's 3. You've got the Terrorgeist and Zombie Dragons is 4. Your Throne is 5. And the Spells is 6. Abhorrent Arc Regent is 7. Your Warcry thing is 8, and then you've got your I'll count this as another one, 9. Even though realistically it's got all those things in there again, but it's you get one more cool miniature. So I guess it's a weird way of counting it, but if you went to the store and you were looking at what was available, you'd have 9 boxes. Well, probably 10, because you'd get the Flesh Eater Courts start collecting. You'd have 10 boxes to choose from, and that's the entire range. Like everything available, other than books, is in 10 boxes. Maybe even 9 if you exclude the start collecting, and you got one of these and just got a Zombie Dragon. You've got a huge amount of what's available in just 2 boxes. So yeah, there's not a lot of choice. I guess there's some choice. You can build them how you want, but there's not a lot of choice. There's not really any sort of missile weaponry. These guys have a Scream. I think the Terrorgeist has a Scream. So there's a few ways you can play them, but I don't know. It'd be nice to have a few more options. But then, I guess there's a few armies that have options. Like Stormcast obviously have all the options. and I don't know the range that well, but I can see there's a lot of options. So that to me suggests you can play them in multiple ways. Whereas, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. I think having the options to play how you want to play is great. You know, it won't necessarily be good. Like, you won't necessarily win games, but I think it's really cool to be able to play to a theme that you've come up with. And that tends to be how I build my armies. Like, I'll build them around a theme that I've come up with, or a bit of a story that I've come up with. And I like that. You know, that's part of, you know, it's kind of collaborative storytelling with a game attached kind of thing. I like to get into that narrative. So, yeah, those options can be really, really good. And with 40k, obviously, your Stormcast equivalent is your Space Marines. There's all the models for them. Lots of different ways you can play. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a great way to play, as in like competitive, but the options are there. And I guess with Age of Sigmar, with a lot of the factions being, I mean, obviously the game's a few years old now, but it's still relatively new factions compared to some of the 40k ones or the old Hammer ones. So your options are limited in terms of what you have access to. And I know, like, some armies are themed around a certain style of fighting, but I don't know. I like a bit of choice, so that influences things. I think I got into Flesh Eater Courts because I got the Carrion Empire or Carrion Empires. I can't remember, whatever the box is that came with Skaven, and I just had this idea of they were going to be from the realm of metal, and I think I just had a paint scheme that came to mind really quickly. And I think I knew that Skaven were a horde army. I loved the idea of Skaven, but I just thought I'm never going to be able to paint through them. Whereas the majority of the ghouls and everything here are, you know, the main colour here is the skin. So I just airbrushed them. I did an airbrush with one colour, and then I did dry brushing for the rest, and got a fully painted, like 1500 point army in very little time. Again, it's not finished. It's never been completely finished painting wise, but it was close enough to play with. You know, and I guess I could rock up to Warhammer World with what I've got, but I'd rather go in there with I've got time. I'd rather paint them up to a slightly better standard and go from there. So yeah, that's where we're at. I think I'm going to call the stream there. I've been going for over an hour. I've been rambling for over an hour. Lots of thoughts, opinions and whatever in there. Again, I'm not an expert in Age of Sigmar. I'm still very much learning about the role, the game and the different armies, etc. But it's fun. It's a fun journey to go on, to get back into it and to play a game. And I'm hoping, I'll play a couple of games at Warhammer World, or a game or two, and then when I come back to Wales, maybe play on the local scene here and just get some games in and have a nice time with it. So that's the aim, and we shall see what happens from that point on. But yeah, so again, thank you very much for tuning in. Please leave comments if you have opinions on what I've said in terms of like Flesh Eater Courts, getting back into Age of Sigmar, any tips, tricks, advice that you'd have for anyone either new to the hobby or new to Flesh Eater Courts, or anyone who's had a break. So they're familiar with the sort of the phases of play in a turn, but things that will help people get back into the swing of it, get back into the flow of making games run smoothly for opponents and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's been emotional. I will see you on Monday for a Monday night stream where I will do more painting, a lot more painting than I've done today, hopefully. But yeah, it's been great. Have a good one. Bye.